What if you made the worst decision of your life? I don't know if you've ever come to a point and you've looked back and you have regret. And as you look back on life, you regret the decisions and you regret some of the things that you've done. But what if you look at life and in life you turn around and all of a sudden you realize, man, what I'm doing, I'm not doing the right thing. Where I'm going, what I'm trying to achieve, what I'm trying to accomplish, what I'm trying to become, I'm not going after the right thing. What if in the end of life you turn around and there is major regret? I've had the opportunity to spend some time with people who are literally on the edge of death and fixing to pass over and fixing to die. And talking to them, a lot of times people look back and they say, I wish I hadn't spent so much time doing this. I wish I hadn't spent so much time doing this. I wish I hadn't spent so much time over here. I wish I hadn't spent so much time at work and away from my kids. Because when I was young, what I thought is I needed to spend more time at work so that I could provide this great, loving, happy home for my kids. And I thought that I could provide that not with me being home, but with me getting everything inside the house that they've ever dreamed of and they've ever wanted. And so I worked super hard. I was never home. But in the end, I regret it. In the end, I wasn't there for my kids. In the end, I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I wasn't the dad. I wasn't the mom that I was supposed to be. And laying on the deathbed, most of the time, a lot of the time, we hear the regrets of people. I wish I hadn't focused on that. I wish I hadn't treated my spouse that way. Like really, we would fight about the dumbest things. And I hate that we would fight about that. And I hate that it would, I'm so tired. I can't believe I did that. Because now when I'm facing eternity, this and what we fought about seems so minimal. And it doesn't seem like it matters at all. And so what I started doing, we've got a passage in Luke chapter 16 today. And before we get to that, I want to read a couple things to you. Just thinking about this, because here what we're looking at today is we're looking at two people that died. And so it's a super uplifting sermon today. We're really excited about it. We're talking about death. And so here's the thing. When I was kind of thinking about this, I started Googling and I started looking at kind of what people were thinking about different scenarios and different situations. And so the first thing I typed in was this: what are people worrying about the most? Like, what worries people today? And I looked at a lot of different sites and kind of took my own survey and pulled my own resource and everything like that to come up with these top 5 things as I looked at all these different websites. The first one is this: what people worry about today. And so what keeps you up at night, what you worry about, it's this: saving for the future or saving for retirement. Hoping to have enough money that you can retire at a decent age, that you have enough money that in the end you don't have to work until you die. Your physical appearance is number 2. How you look. People think about that and worry about that a lot. That even today, now in the world of selfies, where people are holding that phone up and snapping selfies, they are going and getting plastic surgery in order to take the best selfies that they can because they're worried about how they look online. If you ever see it, watch somebody. When somebody asks you to take a picture, if you've ever seen them or you walk by and somebody's trying to take a picture and I'll take that for you. Okay, great. What do? You snap the photo. What's the first thing they do? It's not, hey, post. It's they look at it. How do I look? Ooh, could you take that again? And then they step back and they're like, okay. And they try and get the good side and they try and so everybody's worried about their physical appearance. Paying bills and debt is number 3. Being able to pay your bills every single month, but then also the debt and managing the debt that you've accumulated over the years. Number 4, job security. Hoping that you don't lose your job. Getting up the night, somebody's going to fire me today. And so hoping, the last one is this: becoming old. Becoming old. Like people worry about, like, I don't want to get old. I don't want wrinkles and lose my hair and forget, Careful there. I know. I don't want to wear Depends. I don't. A lot of you in this room that are. I'm joking. And so then what are people most worried about? Now, what are people most scared of? Top 5 things that I found. Number 1 is public speaking. That's number 1. People don't want to stand up and communicate and talk in front of large crowds. Number 2, heights. People are afraid of heights. I didn't realize I had a fear of heights until I had to climb really high one time. The church that I was at prior had a ceiling that was about 40, 50 feet high. And they decided to do the same thing that we did. They decided to paint their ceiling, but instead of hiring somebody, they just decided we'll do it on our own. And this is a massive place. And so what we were doing is building scaffolding in order for people to get the sprayer and to start spraying and to start painting the ceiling. Well, there was a guy that was about 85 years old on top of this scaffolding, and he's standing over the edge, and he's pulling that scaffolding up. And I'm like, this is not good. Like, this guy is going to have a heart attack, fall off that thing, and die in front of all of us. Or he's just going to lose it. He's 85. Like, what if he forgets where he is and just tries to walk forward? Like, it's an old joke, okay? That's for you old people. And so he's up there and he's pulling. I'm like, he can't do this. So I'm like, I'm going to go help him. So I climb up that scaffolding, not thinking anything about it. Get to the top, and when I get to the top, that thing all of a sudden starts moving like this. And there are no sides to it. We were not OSHA approved. I was not buckled into anything. And he's just standing there pulling it up, and then he'll set one down and pull another one up and then set it in, and then we'll climb up and build it. And so I'm next to him, and I'm just like, I'll do it. And so I go over to the edge, and my feet are hanging off the edge, and we're about 45 feet in the air, and this thing is moving back and forth. And I pull 2 of them up, and then I realize it is better for him to die in front of people than for me to stay up here and help him pull this up. I was like, I'm done. I want nothing to do with this. And I climbed down as fast as I could and got out of there. I told him, I was like, oh, I got a phone call. I got to go. I didn't tell anybody I was scared. But number 2 on this, what are people most scared of? Heights. Number 3, claustrophobia. Those small enclosed rooms. Number 4, snakes. Number 5, spiders. I don't know why spiders freak me out so bad, but yesterday, my dog that can escape from anything, I had gone in the backyard and tried to rig up this thing where she can't climb the fence anymore. And so I did it, then I put her outside, and I'm watching through the window trying to see if she's climbing over the fence. And so I'm just watching and watching, and I couldn't really see. So I go to open the window. When I do, there was a spider, and I didn't know it, on the other side. And these things can jump, and it jumps right at my face. And I'm screaming and running for a little tiny spider. But that's number 5 on what people are most scared of. And so then, as you start thinking, and as you look at other things, and you think about the world today and how we live, success, when you Google it, is defined like this. The fact of getting or achieving wealth, respect, or fame. And so when people look at your life, and when people say, man, you've got a successful life, according to the standards of the world, if we line up next to people, they're saying that success is achieving wealth, respect, or fame, notoriety, for people to know who you are. And so that's what success is. And that's what people are trying to achieve. And that's what people are going after. And then I Googled this. What do people think about death? And so it said this in a CBS poll. It said 54% of people don't spend much time thinking about death. 14% of people spend a lot of time thinking about death. 31% of people spend some time thinking about death. 51% of women, though, think about death often. Only 38% of men think about death often. 3 in 4 Americans believe in the existence of heaven or hell. 3 in 4 Americans. 66% of those who think that both exist. 11% of those only believe that heaven actually exists. 17% don't believe that either exist. But here's the wild thing. When you look at those numbers, 82% of Americans believe that if they died today, they would spend their eternity in heaven. 82%. I want to read a story to you. Jesus is standing in front of the Pharisees. You know who the Pharisees are. The Pharisees are the religious people of the time. And they are the ones that feel like they're doing everything right. In order to be a Pharisee, they had to go through a long process, a rigorous process of schooling. They had the Bible was memorized to them. The first 5 books of the Bible, they had memorized. And so they knew the Word of God really well. People looked at them. People admired them. People listened to them. People wanted to hear what they had to say. When they walked into a room, people were very impressed, and they were the ones everybody was looking to. And so Jesus starts telling a story in Luke chapter 16. And he talks about a wealthy man. And he talks about this wealthy man having a manager, having somebody that took care of everything. But then he said this manager was given control over everything. But as the owner came up and started looking at what the manager was doing, he looked and he realized that the manager wasn't actually doing his job. That he wasn't actually taking care of what he was supposed to be taking care of. That he wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing, and he was mishandling what had been entrusted to him. And he wasn't doing a good job with what the owner had given him. And so Jesus, the Bible says, as he continues that story, the Pharisees get really, really mad. Because a lot of times our response to conviction is anger. Our response to when the Holy Spirit is convicting us and working in our hearts and trying to change who we are from the inside out, instead of being responsive, a lot of times we get defensive and we get angry because we don't like the fact that somebody's pointing out what we're doing wrong. Somebody's pointing to us and saying, I can't believe you were doing that. I can't believe you acted that way. I don't like it at all when Heather looks at me and just says, hey, like, the way you're talking to me, that's not kind. Like, that's not like, what are you talking about? I'm talking fine to you. Like, I get angry and upset that she would correct me, knowing, because I know there's truth in what she's saying. And see, a lot of times our response to truth is to respond in a way to try and deflect what is being spoken about us, because we don't like correction. And Jesus is speaking to these Pharisees, and they're starting to get angry because it's penetrating to the heart, because they feel this uncomfortableness, and they feel like as Jesus is speaking, all eyes are on them. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where somebody's standing up speaking and you feel like you're the only person in the room that he is speaking to, and everybody else is just staring at you, and they're like, yeah, it's about you. Yeah, we all know he's talking to you. And you feel like just all the eyes are on you. That's what was going on, and that's how the Pharisees felt in this moment as Jesus was talking. And so then Jesus tells another story. In their uncomfortableness, as they're angry because of the conviction, because what Jesus is trying to paint is Jesus is trying to say, I've given you as your Father in heaven, I've given you this responsibility, and you are swindling it away. You are wasting what I've been given to you. You're not using the gifts and the talents and the ability that I've given you, and you're not doing what's right. And so then he tells them this story. And it's found in Luke chapter 16, and it starts with verse 19. And it says this: there was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen, and lived in luxury every single day. At his gate laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores, and longed to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him away to Abraham's side. And the rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was in torment, he looked up and he saw Abraham far away and Lazarus by his side. So he called to him and said, Father Abraham, have pity on me and send Lazarus to dip just the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in these flames. But Abraham replied, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comfortable here, and you are in agony there. And besides this, between us is a giant chasm that has been set in place, so that those who went to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us. And he answered, Then I beg you, please send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, so that they will not come to this place of torment. And Abraham replied, They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them. No, Father Abraham, he said, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent. And he said to them, If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced even if someone raises from the dead. Can you imagine not ever having to worry about anything financially? Can you imagine being in a position where if you decided you woke up today and you're like, I want to go to the car dealership, I need a new car. My car's old, I want a new one. And you roll into the dealership, and when you get to the dealership, you see these cars lined up, and you can't pick which one you want, so you just decide to buy them all. Or you're scrolling through Facebook, and as you're scrolling through Facebook, you see a house that you love sitting right on the beach. It's not anywhere close to you. You won't live there. It's just a place you may travel a couple times a year, but it's beautiful and it's perfect, and you say, I want it, and so you buy it right then and right there. Can you imagine going into the mall and having everything that you could possibly desire, going in and shutting a store down because you feel like you're going to spend that much money? Hey, all these people out, shut the doors. I want to shop on my own. I'm going to buy whatever I want. And you get whatever you want whenever you want. Can you imagine life like that? Can you imagine having a job that pays you so much that you have so many zeros after that you don't even know what to do with? You can't even count that high. You're like, I've got 1, 2, 7, 9, 10 zeros after this one. I don't even know what that represents, but it's a lot of money in my bank account. And you just have so much money that you don't even know what to do with it. Jesus is speaking to the Pharisees, and as he's speaking to the Pharisees, he starts showing them, listen, you've accumulated a lot of things in life. You've done really, really well for yourself. Look at this rich man. And he starts talking to them about a rich man. And he starts telling them, look at what he's done. Look at who he is. When he walks in, his wealth has bought him anything that he possibly ever wanted. Everything that he could possibly ever dream of. Like, can you imagine when I turned 16? I could not wait to turn 16 because I was getting a car and I had been searching and searching, but I had a budget. My mom and dad were making me buy my own car. It was child abuse. And I mean, it was terrible. I had to work and then buy my own car. And so I was looking and looking and looking and trying to find something, and I had like $6,000 to spend. I didn't have hardly anything to spend. And then my grandpa picks up the phone, calls me, Johnny, I found you the perfect car. I'm like, awesome, what is it? He's like, it's a Ford Tempo. I'm like, I've never heard of that, but it sounds like a race car. I was like, that sounds awesome. I was like, I'll take it. And because everything I was looking at had like 190,000 miles. And this he found had 20,000. I was like, I don't know how you got this. Like, it's one of those things like you just dream of. You know, there was a lady and her husband passes away and she's older and she just doesn't care. And there's a Ferrari sitting in the garage and she's like, give me $300. You know, it was like one of those moments in my mind. Like, I'm like, yes. And then he shows up and we go get it from Beaver, Oklahoma, and my mom pulls up, and it's a baby blue 4-door Ford Tempo, just a beautiful, beautiful car right there. I mean, it is a race car. I parked that thing. I went to a private school. I parked that thing in between one of my best friends growing up. His first car was a white with red leather Porsche 911 convertible. I parked it next to a brand new 500 series BMW that was black with tan leather interior. Like those are the cars, and I would pull mine up and I would be like, hey, don't ding my door when you get out of your car. What are you thinking? Be careful. Wipe that thing down before I walk into school. But my buddy, he had actually 10 cars. 10. He had a Hummer. He had an F-350 that pulled this Hummer everywhere he went. He bought an F-350 just to pull the Hummer. He had 2 Lexuses. He had 2 Jaguars. He had a Suburban. He had a Tahoe that was jacked up, like really, really high. And I drove that everywhere I went. Can you imagine just having whatever you want, whenever you want? That's what Jesus is trying to say. Like when we look and when success is defined in the world, there are people that we look at and we say, they have it made. Like they've done it, they've achieved it. Like quit going to work because you've already done it. Like there's nothing else to achieve. Like you have done it all. Why are you continuing to show up to work every single day? You can retire, you can relax, go play golf, go sit on the beach, go do something, just travel the world. Like you've done it. And that's how we view success. And that's what we think is success. And then Jesus points out a man who by all of our terms would say he is absolutely the opposite of success. Like when you're taking your kids down the street and you're walking through and you see somebody and you're like, hey, you see that person? You need to try and be like them. You need to act like them. You need to earn like them. You need to work like them. And then you see this beggar. And he looks so bad that he has sores all over his body. And he looks so bad that he is sitting at the gate of the rich man just hoping that the rich man will throw some leftovers his way. Or when the rich man's servants bring out the trash, he goes and digs through the trash. And it's not somebody that you look at and you point at and you say, son, listen, someday I want you to be just like him. Like in every, like I want, like look at his work ethic. I mean, look at his hygiene. Look at everything he's done. I want you to be like him. See, it was so bad for this guy that the sores on his body were getting licked by dogs. Stray dogs were coming up and all over his body. And he's trying to push them away, and he's sitting there and he's begging, please, just a little bit. Give me just a little money, please. Anything will help. Anything, please, help me. And what Jesus is doing is Jesus is setting the people up. Because as everybody's listening to this story, they're listening and they're thinking, that rich man is pretty awesome. I want to be just like that rich man. Oh man, I wish I had everything that he had. Man, I wish I had 3 private jets. Like if I'm not feeling the gray one today, I'll take the white one. And I'll just, I wish I had 6 helicopters. I know I just live right over there, but man, it would be nice not to get in my car and have to drive for 4 minutes to work. If I could just hop in a helicopter and get here tomorrow. And everybody's looking and they know like, man, these people have made it. And Jesus knows in the mind of people, like you are looking at these people and you are thinking that they have made it and that this is what success is. And you are trying in every way to be like them, to do what they're doing, to achieve what they've achieved, to accumulate what they've accumulated. You look at their house and then you look at yours and you think, oh, life's terrible. Look at my house. It's only like 2,000 square feet. It's tiny. Like, can you believe that? Look at theirs. Theirs is like 7,000 square feet. And Jesus is setting the people up because then he shows them this poor guy. And everybody in their mind is just, oh, it's disgusting. Oh, that's so gross. He's got sores all over his body. Like, let's go give him a hug. Like, you're like, oh. And then not only, like, dogs are licking him. Like, that's how he's getting clean. Like, oh, this is so gross. And then Jesus says something that happens to everybody, no matter how much money you have or how poor you are. No matter what your life has been like. If you take in one breath, at some point, your breath will stop. Death is inevitable for everybody. Nobody can get around it. See, people are now trying to figure out, and for the longest time, since the beginning of time, people have been trying to figure out, how do we prolong life? Like, how do I live longer? I'm not satisfied with the 70, 80 years that I have. I want to live 150, 200, 300 years. I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die. Like, I don't want to do that. Number 5 on the list is getting old. I don't want to get old. I want to stay young. And even today, people are trying to come up with these ideas of freezing a body after somebody dies and then bringing them back to life in the future so that then when technology has caught up, they have figured out a way in order to prolong life. They bring them back to life and then they can live forever. People are always looking for a way, but here's the thing. If you are taking in breath, if your heart is beating, then at some point, your heart is going to stop and you will die. It's inevitable. And Jesus is looking at this crowd and he says, there was a poor man by the gate. None of y'all ever saw him. You all walked by him. Nobody ever said hi to him. Nobody ever talked to him. Nobody was ever kind to him. And he died. And he went up to heaven. And then there was a rich man who all of you are trying to become, who all of you are desiring to be, who all of you are trying to accumulate everything that you can. But here's the problem. Jesus says, he died and he went to hell. See, here's the thing. No matter what you accumulate, no matter what you get, it does not matter what all you get on this earth. It matters who you get on this earth. That changes everything. And this rich man had done everything. He was having dinner with kings. The governors were coming over to his house and he was setting policy for everything because he had that much money, that much influence, that much power that whatever went on, whatever took place, he was involved in, he did it. But now he faces eternity. And when he faces eternity, he spends his eternity forever in hell. Because no matter what you've accumulated on this earth, it will not buy you into heaven. And so Jesus begins to speak about that rich man. And he says the poor man who suffered on earth now is living the greatest life that he could possibly ever live in the presence of Jesus forever. He's got peace, he's got joy, he's got happiness, he's got love, he's got kindness, he has hope, he has a future, all because of Jesus. But then you have this rich man who did everything he could to get everything that he possibly could. And he is in so much torment. I had a conversation with a guy not too long ago, and we were talking, and I was asking him about his stance on Jesus. And I was asking him, if you died today, do you know where you'd spend your eternity? He said, I don't care. He said, when I die, I'm turning to dust. And I started talking to him, and I said, well, this is what the Bible says. And he says, say there is a hell. He goes, when I go to hell, he goes, I'm going to throw the biggest party they've ever had, and we're just going to have a blast. See, you have to understand. The enemy of God wants to do everything that he can in order to deceive you and to make you think that what is to come is not that big of a deal. But what God is trying to do is he is trying to paint the clearest picture possible for us to say that hell is nothing to joke about. Hell is nothing to take lightly. Hell is nothing to just pass over and to just, yeah, maybe, okay, I'll go to heaven instead of hell. 82% of Americans say they're going to heaven when they die. Here's the only way that you get into heaven. It is through Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross. It has nothing to do with what you've done here on this earth. It has everything to do with the faith that you put in Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. That's it. And so this rich man is in so much pain that he looks up and he says, Lazarus, can you please just dip your finger in some water and then touch my tongue? I don't know if you've ever been so tired. I was tired last Sunday. It was hot. We got done with 3 services. We were fixing to have a small group at our house and my yard looked terrible. So I went out there and I was mowing and it was just hot. And I came in and my throat was so dry from being outside, and I needed water so bad. This rich man, who at the snap of his finger all of his life got whatever he wanted, now finds himself in a position saying, the fire that is consuming me, that is hurting so bad, can you just for a moment make it stop? Can you just for a moment give some relief? Listen, hell is not a place of fun. Hell is a place for torture that was never created for you. It was created for the enemy of God and for the demons that followed him. But the problem is now the enemy of God is roaming around the earth trying to deceive us, to get our minds off of what is important. And now all of a sudden this rich man figured out that he had been deceived. That everything that he had gone after, everything that he had desired, everything that he had wanted, everything that he had accumulated, everything that he thought was important, now all of a sudden meant nothing. You think he cared how nice his clothes were when he was suffering in hell? You think he cared how many houses he had when he was suffering in hell? You think he cared how big his house? You think he cared how fast his boats went? You think he cared how many people he had working for him? Because at the end of the day, what matters is eternity. Because once you make that decision, there is no turning back from it. And so the rich man looks down and says, just touch my tongue. Just give me some relief. Just a moment. He says, there's no way I can. No way. He says, if you can't help me, then please do this. I have 5 brothers. Go tell them. Please, 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 go tell them. I don't want them coming here. I did a funeral of a man early on in my ministry. We have people come by who don't go to church. And so they'll come by a church because they want to have a funeral in church. And so they'll ask a pastor to do a funeral. And so I was new to staff. And so there was somebody walking through the doors. We didn't have a clue who they were. So they sent them to me and I got to do the funeral. And so I'm sitting down with the family. And as I'm sitting down with the family and we're talking, I said, tell me a little bit about your dad. And they said, he was a terrible person. I was like, oh, this is going really well. Okay, tell me a little more. We didn't like him at all. Like he was just mean. Nobody wanted to be around him. He didn't have any friends. It's not going to be a big funeral. We're just doing this because we feel like we need to do it. I was like, well, this is going to be a lot of fun, okay? Because I have no clue who he is. And so trying to tell stories about him that are uplifting and kind, I'm like, oh, okay. So I stood up at that funeral and I looked at that family and there wasn't very many people there. And I said, listen, if your dad could tell you one thing today, I said, if your dad could speak from eternity, I said, here's what he would tell you. Please don't make the same decision that I made. Please, whatever you do, don't make the same mistake that I have made. Please don't chase after everything that you think you need to chase after. Please don't go after everything that you think is going to be fulfilling and satisfying. In the end, I promise you it's worthless. I promise you it means nothing. I promise you it brings no satisfaction. It brings no joy. I promise you if your dad could tell you one thing, he would tell you, please, please, please choose Jesus. Because what he rejected here on earth and what he denied here on earth now is so clear to him. And it is so plain and obvious that even though he didn't believe it on earth, there is an eternity and he has to face that eternity. And he is begging you, please don't make the same mistake that I made. And this rich man is looking up from hell and he's saying, please, whatever you do, go tell my family. They don't want to come here. I chased the wrong things. I did the wrong. Please, whatever you do, tell my family. Can you imagine if God opened up the ears, opened up the voices of hell so that we could hear those voices crying out today? How it would change our focus. How in a moment, all of a sudden, our passion and our desire would be so overflowing that we realize, man, I've got to do something. They're lost and they're dying and they're going to hell. Can you imagine the faces of your family members as they look back and they say, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me what you believed? Why didn't you tell me that there was a God? Why didn't you tell me that Jesus could save me? Why did you not say anything? In their helpless and hopeless eyes, what you focused on was going and getting things and doing things and playing and having fun. And you wanted to talk about sports and you never brought up Jesus. Statistics say that 90% of people who walk through the church never, ever share their faith. See, I believe the worst thing that a Christian can do is never share Jesus. You have the keys to life. You have the keys to hope. You have the keys to a future. People all around you are dying and spending their eternity in a place that was never created for them. And God is saying, please, I've sent you on this earth. I placed you on this earth to be my witness, to share, to open up the eyes, to not be deceived, to not be blinded, to not be caught off guard by what the enemy is trying to dangle in front of you, but to share the love and the hope of Jesus Christ. When I was a youth pastor, we go to Falls Creek. Falls Creek is a camp down by Ardmore. And every year we take a group of students down there. Well, when I was going, they didn't have great cell reception. It's in the Arbuckle Mountains, and they just don't have really, really good cell reception there. And so when I would go check my phone, I would have to go climb up a little mountain, and then all of a sudden you'd hold your phone up and you'd get a bar, and so you'd try and check it. Well, now I'm holding my phone up, and all of a sudden it's like I've got a ton of missed calls from Heather. I'm like, what in the world? And so I call her back real quick, and she answers the phone, and she is sobbing. I'm like, babe, what is wrong? And she goes, Johnny, you'll never believe it. She goes, we went swimming today with your sister. And she says, as we were swimming, all the kids were having fun, and she said, I never saw Haley. She said, Haley got out of the pool, took her floaties off, went over to the hot tub. And the hot tub is just this square that's got seating on the outside, and then it's really deep in the middle. And she said, I never saw her get in the hot tub. We were just talking. We were watching all the kids. She goes, I don't know how I missed it. And she goes, but she almost died. She goes, it's a miracle she's alive. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, she climbed into the hot tub and she sunk to the bottom. And we don't know how long she was there. But your sister walked by and just happened to see her. And she said she was sitting Indian style, just looking up. And she said she'll never forget the way her eyes looked. And she jumped in and she scooped her up and she grabbed her. And she's fine. She goes, Johnny, that could have turned out terrible. Listen, those eyes of a helpless little girl, those eyes of a girl that could do nothing. She was at the bottom. She had no hope. She had no way of rescuing herself. She had no way of bringing herself out of that situation. Those eyes of hopelessness are the eyes of hopelessness of this world. That if Jesus does not swoop in and pull them out, then they will forever be separated from him. But you and I bring the message that brings hope and life and joy and a future and peace that can change everything. Jesus is the salvation that they need. But what the enemy is trying to do and what Jesus is trying to get across to these Pharisees as they're standing in front of them. These are the people that never miss Sunday. These are the people that are in church all the time. These are the people that have the Bible memorized. He's saying, listen, you're missing it. You're missing it. Don't be deceived by the shiny things that the enemy is throwing in front of you. But share Jesus with everyone that you come across because he is their hope. He's the one that changes everything. Listen, my prayer for us today is this, that we would not be like every other church and not share who Jesus is, but that we would get a passion inside of us, that we would get a burning, that we would get a boldness deep inside of us that breaks our heart, that drives us to our knees, that keeps us up at night, that just says, I can't go to sleep without telling somebody about Jesus. I can't go to sleep without weeping over the fact that I've told them, but they've never accepted. I can't go to sleep. My mom has a friend who was telling her about her dad. And she said that she has witnessed to her dad over and over and over. And she has shared with her dad over and over and over. And she was sharing with her dad one last time, and her dad looked at her and said, I don't need God. I want nothing to do with him. And held his fist up and shook his fist in the face of God. And 3 days later died of a massive heart attack. But today she has peace because she knows she did everything she could to point him to Jesus. Listen, it's not my responsibility to save people. It's my responsibility to tell people. It's not your responsibility to save people. It's your responsibility to tell people. Jesus has chosen you. You are that important and that vital to him that he has said, I want you here in Sapulpa in 2018 to make a difference. Can you imagine if the Spirit of God starts stirring in Sapulpa and starts changing people from the inside out? What will happen? If we get excited and start being obedient and we get brokenhearted over what breaks the heart of God and we start sharing and we say, I'm not going to bed until somebody knows Jesus. I'm not going to go to sleep because my heart is so torn up for my coworkers, for my family, for my friends. I can't sleep. I'm so unsettled. I can't even eat because people need Jesus. And I know the truth. If they die without Jesus, they will forever spend their eternity separated from God. And that's not good for me. And I'm not okay with that. Will you pray with me?